I drank too much at our town festival and kept flirting with his boss until this happened. Hey Reddit, I can't believe I'm even typing this out, but I really need to get it off my chest. I've been lurking around here for a while and I feel like I need to share this. It's one of those situations where I wish I could go back in time and undo everything, but all I can do now is own up to my mistakes. So, a bit of background first. My husband James and I have been married for 5 years, but have been together since high school. He's an amazing guy, kind, supportive, and honestly, he's the best thing that ever happened to me. But if I'm being completely honest, our relationship hasn't always been smooth. Early in our marriage, I made some serious mistakes. I cheated on James, not once, but twice, and it nearly broke us. We went through a really rough period after that. James was devastated, and it took a lot of work, therapy, long talks, and endless apologies to even begin to rebuild the trust I had shattered. It took everything in me to convince him that I was truly sorry and that I would never betray him like that again. Eventually, we got back on track, but there were scars, and I knew that deep down, James was still wary, still afraid that I might hurt him again. In the last year, things had been looking up for us. James recently got a promotion at work, something he'd been working toward for years. He's one of the hardest working people I know, and this promotion meant everything to him. With the promotion came a new boss, Mr. Carter. I'd heard a lot about Mr. Carter from James, how he's a tough but fair guy, someone who could really help James move up even further in his career. James was eager to impress him, to show that he was deserving of the role he'd been given. So, when I found out Mr. Carter was going to be at the town festival, I knew it was a big deal for James, and I was excited to finally meet him. He wanted to introduce me to him, to show Mr. Carter that he had a supportive wife by his side. We live in a small town where everyone knows each other, and once a year we have this big town festival. It's the kind of event where people come from all over. There's music, food, games, and of course a lot of drinking. I've always loved it because it's a chance to let loose and have fun. But this year, I took it way too far. The day of the festival started out great. James and I went together and everything was perfect. We played some games, ate way too much cotton candy, and just enjoyed the day. But as the evening rolled around, I started drinking. It wasn't anything unusual at first, just a few beers to get into the festival spirit. But then I had a couple more, and then a few shots with some friends, and before I knew it, I was way past my limit. That's when I saw Mr. Carter. He was standing by one of the food stalls talking to some of his colleagues. I don't know what came over me, but in my drunken state, I decided it would be a good idea to go over and introduce myself. James was off somewhere else at this point, probably grabbing more drinks or chatting with some of our friends, so I was on my own. I walked up to Mr. Carter, and honestly, I don't even remember what I said at first. Something about how I'd heard so much about him, and how great it was to finally meet him. He was polite and friendly, but I could tell he was a bit taken aback by how forward I was being. But instead of taking the hint, I kept going. I started complimenting him on his suit, his hair, his smile. I could see the discomfort on his face, but I just couldn't stop myself. And then I crossed the line. I started flirting with him, and not just casual, innocent flirting. No, I was full on, shamelessly hitting on him. I don't even want to repeat some of the things I said because they're so embarrassing, but let's just say it was bad. Really bad. Mr. Carter tried to laugh it off at first, making some joke about how I must have had a bit too much to drink, but I didn't get the message. I kept pushing, kept making suggestive comments, and then I touched his arm. At that moment, James walked up. I didn't even see him coming, but suddenly he was there, standing next to me with this look of pure shock on his face. I'll never forget the look in his eyes, hurt, confusion, and anger all rolled into one. I tried to laugh it off, saying it was all just a joke, but he didn't find it funny at all. He pulled me aside, away from Mr. Carter, and asked me what the hell I was doing. Given our history, James was immediately suspicious and angry. He'd been so proud to introduce me to Mr. Carter, to show that we were a united front. And there I was, making a complete fool of myself, and undermining everything he had worked so hard to achieve. James knew what this promotion meant, how it was a chance for him to prove himself, to secure our future, and I had jeopardized that in a matter of minutes. I was still too drunk to fully understand how serious the situation was, so I just shrugged it off and told him I was just being friendly. But James wasn't buying it. He told me that I was embarrassing myself, him, and our relationship. He said that Mr. Carter is not just his boss, but someone who could make or break his career, and that I was completely out of line. That's when it hit me. I realized what I had done, but it was too late. The damage was already done. James walked away, leaving me standing there, feeling like the biggest idiot in the world. I wanted to run after him, to apologize, to make it right, but I was too drunk to even move. So I just stood there, watching him disappear into the crowd. The rest of the night is a blur. I vaguely remember getting an Uber home, crying the whole way, and then passing out as soon as I got to bed. The next morning, the hangover hit me hard. Not just the physical one, but the emotional one too. I woke up to an empty bed. James wasn't there. I texted him, asking where he was, but he didn't respond. I called him, but it went straight to voicemail. I was starting to panic, thinking he might be so mad that he didn't want to come home. But a few hours later, he finally walked through the door. He didn't yell, didn't scream. He just looked disappointed. He told me that he had gone to his parents' house to cool off and think things through. He said he didn't know what to do next, that he needed time to figure out if he could even trust me again after what I'd done. And that's where we are now. It's been a few days since the festival, and things are still tense between us. James is distant, barely talking to me, and when he does, it's cold and detached. I've tried apologizing, tried explaining that I was just drunk and didn't mean any of it, but he's not ready to forgive me. I feel like I've ruined everything. Not just my relationship with James, but potentially his career too. I can't stop thinking about what Mr. Carter must think of me now, and how it might affect James at work. I've been sick with worry, replaying that night over and over in my head, wishing I could take it all back. I don't know what to do, Reddit. I love James more than anything, and I don't want to lose him. But I feel like I've already pushed him too far. I'm terrified that he's going to leave me, and I don't know how to fix this mess I've created. If anyone has been in a similar situation, or has any advice on how to make things right, please. I could really use some help right now. Update. Hey Reddit, it's me again. After my last post, I got seriously bashed, and honestly, I can't complain because I deserve it. I messed up, big time, and I know it. I'm not here to argue or try to justify what I did, because there's no excuse. I was wrong, plain and simple, and I own that. For those of you who pointed out that I've been unfaithful before and wished my husband would leave me, I want to address that. Yes, I've made mistakes in the past, mistakes that I deeply regret and have been working hard to fix. But I want to clarify something. I am not a chronic cheat. I know that may sound like a weak defense, but it's the truth. The times I've messed up in the past were moments of weakness that I've since worked tirelessly to overcome. After the first time I cheated, I realized how much pain I caused James, and I promised myself and him that I would never do it again. But then, it happened again, and I saw how much more it hurt him. That was the moment I knew I needed help. I went to therapy, we did couples counseling, and I've spent countless hours working on myself to understand why I made those choices and how to prevent them from happening again. I've been completely transparent with James. He has access to my phone, my social media, and even my location at all times. I've done everything I can to rebuild the trust I broke, and up until the festival, I thought we were on the right track. But I know that what I did that night, flirting with his boss, brought all those old wounds back to the surface. It was a stupid, careless mistake that I deeply regret, and I hate that I've put James through this again. So, what's the update? Well, unfortunately, there isn't much to say. James is still cold toward me, and I don't blame him. He's been distant, barely talking to me, except when absolutely necessary. The connection we were slowly rebuilding feels like it's been shattered all over again. It's like we're back at square one, and it's killing me inside. I've apologized 1,000 times, and I genuinely don't know what else to do. I miss my husband so much, but I can see that he's hurt and struggling to figure out if he can forgive me. Again. Every day I wake up hoping that maybe today will be the day he starts to warm up to me again, but it hasn't happened yet. I feel horrible. I hate myself for what I did, and I hate that I've put our marriage in jeopardy once more. I don't know what the future holds, but I'm going to keep fighting for us. I just hope it's not too late. To those of you who've been supportive, thank you. And to those who've criticized me, you're right. I messed up, and I have to live with that. I just hope that one day I can make things right with James and show him that I truly do love him and that I'm committed to being the partner he deserves. Update. Hey Reddit, it's me again. I don't even know why I'm writing this. I guess I'm looking for some kind of therapeutic relief. I'm honestly so distraught, confused, and blindsided right now. I know I messed up at the town festival, but I never imagined it was bad enough for James to want a divorce. I feel so confused and lost. I never saw this coming, and now I don't know what to do. So, about 2 days ago, James approached me wanting to talk. I was excited, actually, because he hadn't really spoken to me much since the incident at the festival. I thought maybe we were finally going to start mending things, getting back to some sort of normalcy. We sat down, and I even made us coffee. But then he dropped a bombshell. He told me he wanted a divorce. I was completely shocked. At first I thought it was some kind of cruel prank, so I tried to laugh it off. But the look on James's face quickly made me realize that he was, in fact, serious. I felt like the ground was being pulled out from under me. James explained that the past few days, combined with what happened at the festival, made him realize something he couldn't ignore. He couldn't live like this anymore. He couldn't live in constant fear and distrust of me. He said that after I broke his trust the first time, he never fully got it back. There's always been this tiny part of him that suspected I was cheating, even when I wasn't. He said the incident at the festival only intensified that feeling and made him understand something he's been trying to ignore for a long time. He can't live this way, so paranoid, so on edge. He told me he was sorry, that he still loved me, but that I had ruined things starting from the very first time I cheated. He said he didn't want to live in a marriage where he was constantly questioning my every move, wondering if he could ever trust me again. And that's when I broke down. I was fully crying at this point, begging him to reconsider, telling him that I would do anything to fix this. But his mind was made up. James said he'd give me a few days to get ready and find somewhere to go before he'd expect me to leave, and then he just left the room. It's been 2 days since that conversation, and I don't even know what to do with myself. I feel like my whole world has just fallen apart. I keep replaying our conversation in my head, trying to figure out where everything went so wrong and how I missed the signs that this was coming. I guess a part of me always knew that I hadn't fully regained his trust, but I convinced myself that as long as we loved each other, we could get through anything. But now I'm sitting here, realizing that maybe love isn't enough. Not when the trust is gone. Not when the person you love feels like they're living in constant fear of being hurt again. I don't know what to do, Reddit. I feel like I've lost everything, and I don't know how to fix it. I'm terrified of what comes next, and I don't know how I'm going to survive this. How do you move on from losing the person you thought you'd spend the rest of your life with? How do you cope with the fact that you're the one who pushed them away? I'm just so lost right now. Update. Hey Reddit, it's me. I apologize for the radio silence. I know some of you have been wondering what's been happening, and I didn't want to leave you in the dark. I wanted to give you all a proper update, but honestly, it took a while for everything to unfold. First things first, James has been gone for a week. He was staying at his mom's house, and I think part of me knew that he needed space, but I didn't realize just how much. When he came home after that week away, I could tell he was shocked to still see me there. I guess he expected me to be gone by the time he returned. No. It was one of those moments where you don't need words to understand what someone's thinking. The look on his face said it all. He didn't want to deal with the awkwardness of me still being there. I realized I had to leave, not just because he wanted me out, but because I didn't want to complicate things any further. I didn't want to make it harder on both of us, dragging out the inevitable. So I left. I packed up what little I had left and headed to my parents' house. I've been here for about a week now, and I'll be honest, it's horrible. It's not that my parents are bad people or anything, but it's just not where I want to be. I feel like a teenager again, but not in a good way. I'm a grown woman, and yet here I am, back under their roof because I've made such a mess of my life. The worst part is that I just feel numb. I thought I'd be more emotional, more devastated, but I just feel this overwhelming sense of emptiness. I'm tired, physically, mentally, emotionally. I'm tired of the crying, the regret, the constant replaying of everything in my head. I'm tired of trying to figure out where things went wrong, how I ended up here. I'm tired of feeling like I've lost everything that mattered. I wanted to fill in those of you who've been checking up on me because I know some of you genuinely care. It's been easier to just write this update than to reply to all the DMs I've been getting. I'm sorry if I haven't responded to everyone individually, but I've been overwhelmed with everything that's going on. Right now, I'm just trying to get through each day. It's hard to focus on anything other than the fact that my marriage is over, that the life I thought I had is gone. I know I messed up, and I know I have to deal with it, but it's still hard to accept. Update. Hey Reddit, it's been about a week since my last update. Honestly, I wasn't planning on coming back on here at all. I've been avoiding Reddit entirely. No logging on, no reading comments, just trying to disconnect. The truth is, even though some of you have been incredibly supportive and genuinely caring, a lot of the comments have been downright awful. I get it. What I did wasn't right, and people have strong opinions about it, but the sheer volume of hate has been overwhelming. That's why I took a break. But here I am again because despite everything, many of you have been asking for updates, so I figured I'd share what's been going on. First things first, James and I finally talked, and I mean really talked. He came over to my parents' house and we ended up having a conversation that lasted for hours. It was the first real conversation we've had since he told me he wanted a divorce, and it was long overdue. We talked about everything: our marriage, the festival incident, my infidelity, and where we go from here. James basically laid out his feelings in a way he hadn't before. He told me that the town festival incident was a wake-up call for him. He realized that no matter how much he wanted to, he could never fully trust me again. The paranoia had been eating away at him for a long time, but until the festival, he didn't quite understand how deep it went. He admitted that he was constantly suspicious of me, checking my location, and even going through my phone while I was asleep. He said that living like that, constantly on edge, constantly doubting, wasn't sustainable, especially in a marriage. He said he needed someone he could trust completely, and that I was no longer that person for him. He also brought up the fact that I didn't just cheat once, but twice. He said that was a mistake on his part, that he should have never taken me back after the first time. Hearing that, I broke down. I cried, and I cried hard. It was like everything I had been holding back, all the numbness I'd been feeling, finally came crashing down on me. The full weight of what I had done, what I had lost, hit me all at once, and it was devastating. I also asked him about his boss. I needed to know if that situation had caused any issues for him at work. Thankfully, James told me that his boss wasn't upset at all. His boss knew I was drunk and just laughed it off, which was a massive relief. I can't even begin to imagine how much worse things could have gotten if his boss had taken offense to my behavior. We also discussed finances, which was a difficult conversation, but a necessary one. I know I hadn't mentioned this in my previous posts, but I've been a stay-at-home wife for the past year. I didn't bring it up before because, at the time, I didn't think it was relevant, but now with the divorce, it's very relevant. Plus, I wanted to keep some anonymity, hence not mentioning. James said he would leave me a little something from our joint accounts, but when I tried to press him on exactly how much, he wouldn't give me a clear answer. To give a bit more context, I wasn't always a stay-at-home wife. James and I have been married for 5 years, and for the first 4 years, I worked. I quit my job because the work environment had become incredibly toxic, and honestly, James was making more than enough to support both of us. Another reason I left was because the 2 people I cheated with, I met them at my job. After everything that happened, it just seemed better for me to quit and focus on our marriage. Now, I'm in this strange limbo. I don't want to go back to work, if I'm being completely honest. I love being able to stay home, to not have to deal with the stress of a job. But now, with the divorce, I don't really know what my options are. I'm scared of what I'll do next. So that's where things stand right now. Update. Hey Reddit, it's me again. I'm not sure why I'm writing this. Maybe it's because I'm looking for some kind of comfort, or maybe it's just that I need to get this off my chest. Honestly, I'm at a loss. How do you deal with the loss of something so precious? Something that was once your whole world, and now it's just gone? I feel horrible. I really do. Today was the day I got served with the divorce papers, and it's like the final nail in the coffin of everything I've been dreading. And I feel horrible. On one hand, I feel like I deserve it. I know I messed up. I know I broke James's trust, not just once, but twice. And that's not something that can be easily forgiven or forgotten. I betrayed the person who meant the most to me, and now I'm facing the consequences of that. And, in a way, I feel like this is just karma coming back to bite me. But on the other hand, there's this part of me that feels like I don't. I know that sounds selfish, but I can't help but feel like I'm being punished in a way that's too harsh, too final. I've tried to make amends. I've been going to therapy, trying to work on myself, trying to fix the things that led me to make those mistakes in the first place. But it feels like no matter what I do, it's never enough. The damage has been done, and there's no undoing it. And now with these papers, it just feels so final, like there's no coming back from this. It's not just about the divorce. It's about the loss of everything I thought I had, the life we built together, the future we planned. It's all slipping through my fingers, and there's nothing I can do to stop it. I just feel fucking tired. Tired of trying to hold on to something that's already gone. Tired of the guilt, the shame, the endless loop of what ifs playing in my head. Tired of feeling like a failure, like I ruined everything, and there's no way to fix it. And the comments on here, the DMs, they aren't helping either. I know I messed up, and I know people are going to judge me for that. But some of the things people have said, it's brutal. I get that people are angry that they think I deserve this, but it's hard to read those comments and not feel like the worst person in the world. It's like everyone is lining up to tell me how much I fucked up, how much I deserve this pain, and it's just exhausting. I don't know what I was expecting, honestly. Maybe a little bit of understanding, maybe just a tiny bit of empathy. I don't know. But instead, it feels like the whole world is piling on, and I'm not sure how much more I can take. I'm trying to stay strong, I really am, but it's hard when it feels like everything is crumbling around me. I don't know what to do next. I don't know how to move forward from this. All I know is that I feel horrible, and I just wish there was a way to make it all stop. So yeah, that's where I'm at. If anyone has any advice on how to deal with this, or if anyone's been through something similar and come out the other side, I could really use some words of wisdom right now. Because honestly, I'm just feeling lost. Update. Hey Reddit, it's me again. I really struggled with making this post, and honestly, I really didn't want to. But I think I have to. I guess this is my way of closing the chapter, even though it's a chapter I wish I could rewrite. For anyone who's just stumbled upon my post and feels confused, just check my previous posts so you can understand where I'm coming from. That is, if you want to. Anyways, like I said, I really didn't want to make this post, Reddit. It took me a while to come to terms with the fact that I had to. I fought against it for a long time because it felt so final. Like once I put it out there would be no turning back. But in the end, it felt like some kind of final thing I had to do. It felt like the last box to check off on my checklist, like I owed you guys something. So I finally decided to do it, and here I am now, doing it. So, first things first, the divorce has been finalized. I thought I was prepared for it, but when it actually happened, it hit me like a ton of bricks. It was pretty cut and dry, quick and to the point. No debts to split, no assets together. Everything James had was premarital, so I didn't get any of that. No alimony either because, well, I worked for almost 70% of our marriage, so the court didn't see a reason for it. And for those of you asking why I didn't have any savings if I'd been working for 4 years, yeah, that's because I'm an extravagant person. James was always the financially savvy one, the one who knew how to save and invest. I just like to spend it all. It's bad, I know, and it's one of those things I wish I could go back and change. I've toned it down now, though. Living with your parents in your 30s will do that to you. But yeah, we didn't have much in savings when everything went down. So that was it. The divorce is finalized, and there's no going back now. James stayed true to his word, though, and he gave me about 15% of our joint accounts. I'll be honest, I expected way more, maybe 40 or 50%, but it's his money, so I can't complain. And besides, it's not like 15% is nothing. If I were to rent an apartment around my parents' neighborhood, this would probably cover rent for a few months. So I'm grateful for that. It's just, I expected more, but that's fine. It is what it is. As for how I've been doing, horrible, really horrible. I feel sick to my stomach most days, and I can't seem to shake this feeling of dread that settled over me like a heavy fog. My parents are trying their best to help me, and they've been so supportive, but I just can't seem to move on. I've lost 4 jobs in the past month because of this. 3 of them let me go because I couldn't concentrate, and the last one, I just stopped showing up for it. I didn't have the energy, the will to keep going. My parents are angry about that, and I don't blame them. They're trying their best to help me, but they can't do it if I don't want to help myself. And honestly, I'm not sure I do. I just feel tired, exhausted, and I feel horrible. I wish I could go back in time, take back everything I did that led me to this point, but I can't. I know you all are probably going to mock me, tell me you saw this coming from a mile away, and maybe you did. Maybe I did too, but I was too blind to see it. Maybe I thought I could fix things, that there was still hope, but now I see that hope was gone a long time ago. So, yeah, this is probably my last post. Goodbye, Reddit. Thanks to those who tried to offer support, and to those who didn't, well, I guess you were right all along.